gorgeous friends, I am back again with another Save versus Splurge, Skimp versus Splurge. I've said it both ways a million times, but basically spend your money or don't video. And today's edition is all about brushes. Now, I know that brushes for a lot of people are kind of a new territory to travel, especially in the last couple of years. Every kind of brush known to man has come out, and a lot of women feel like they need every kind of brush for their makeup. I do not believe that you need a million brushes. I get a lot of brushes for free, so I am lucky to get to try a lot of brushes, but in my own arsenal, I only use maybe 6 to 10 brushes on like a regular basis. So today I'm going to show you the brands or the types of brushes that I think you can save money on and the types of brushes that I think that you should be spending money on. So let's do this. Okay, so I'm going to kind of go in order of how I would use brushes when I'm applying my makeup. My general rule when buying brushes is that if it's a brush you're going to wash a bunch, so if it's a brush that you're using any liquid or cream formulas on, you should be spending money on those brushes because they're going to be washed more, which means they'll break down more, which means you'll have to spend more money on them. However, there is an exception to the rule, and this is the only exception I've ever really found, and it is with this one foundation brush. This is by e.l.f. and this is just their normal foundation brush, and I use it in my kit and I wash it a bazillion times and it is still in amazing shape. It still applies the makeup amazingly well, so that is one of my only exceptions. Generally, I would splurge on foundation brushes, and for myself, I do splurge on foundation brushes, but again, it is because I do get a lot of products for free. So this is an expensive Smashbox brush and a cheap e.l.f. brush, but with foundation brushes, you can totally splurge and get away with it. You're fine. I mean skimp, not splurge. One thing that I do not have here is actually a sponge. I would not skimp on your beauty blenders. I have tried some of the knockoff brands of beauty blenders, and they apply okay, but they fall apart really quickly, and I feel like you can't get them as clean. They're not as durable as a beauty blender, so that is one thing I would definitely not skimp on. The next thing is another splurge. This is a concealer brush. This is a brush by Smashbox. I have used all manner of concealer brushes, and I definitely don't recommend skimping on your concealer brushes because the concealer under your eyes, you want it to be so nice and smooth, and sometimes the cheaper brushes, the bristles just aren't quite soft enough or they're not compacted enough to give you that nice smooth application. You can also use the flat type of concealer brushes too. I just prefer this for my under eyes, but I would definitely spend money on this one. However, when you are setting your concealer with powder, you can totally skimp on this guy. This is just a deluxe contour brush. This is by Crown Brushes. It's really inexpensive. If you are baking your makeup with a beauty blender, that's one thing. But if you want to use a brush and you don't want such heavy powder on top of your concealer, always set your concealer with powder with whatever you use. But you don't really need anything expensive because you're just kind of setting it there and then brushing it away. Powder brush. So the brush that you are using to apply powder to your entire face, you can totally skimp. This is part of a BH Cosmetics set. A lot of their brushes come in sets, and pretty much all the brushes I have from them come in sets, but they average like $1 a piece if you split up how much the set actually costs. So these are really, really cheap brushes. But when you're putting on your powder, I don't apply a ton of powder. So unless you're doing like, for like a photo shoot where you need like a lot of powder or powder that's like very like centralized to a part of the face, I wouldn't worry about your powder brushes. The next brush is a contour brush. This is another BH Cosmetics brush, and with contour for like the dark powder, I don't worry about it being expensive, especially because I'm not applying so much of that powder. And sometimes when I do contour, like you've seen I'm sure on the internet, you do the cream first and then you do the powder on top, so you don't really need an expensive brush to make sure that it's like super smooth because you're not applying that much makeup. And these BH Cosmetics brushes are so soft and amazing. So when you are doing highlight, this is another BH Cosmetics brush. And again, with highlight, you're not using so much of it. You're just doing it here and here, and you're not using a ton of product. So I don't use super expensive brushes because I don't feel like I need to get like a lot of pigment from the product or anything that's like really stylized out of it. So this is just a nice cheap fan brush. Blush, however, I would spend money on. So this is actually technically, I think, an eyeshadow brush. This is by Anastasia Beverly Hills, and it's A22. When they put these numbers on here, you never can tell what they're actually for, so I use things for whatever I think they're supposed to be used for. I think it's a blending brush. I think it seems really big for the eyelids, but also kind of small for the cheekbones. However, I love this as a blush brush. And the reason I like to spend money on my blush is because blush is so pigmented, and if you're using a cheapy brush and the bristles are pokey or they're not really compacted or just cheap, you might get a weird splotchy application of your blush. So I would definitely spend money on your blush brush. Next we have eyeshadow. So there are 3 eyeshadow brushes here, eyeshadow. That's a whole different video. Eyeshadow brushes here. So these first two brushes are by Morphe, which you guys know is a very inexpensive brand. I think these were like $3 a piece. This is my crease shader brush, and this is my like more pigmented shader brush. So I would do this like the white on the inner corner. You can get away with using inexpensive eyeshadow brushes. It's totally fine, especially Morphe, BH Cosmetics. They make awesome brushes. The only time I would spend money on your brush, which this is a Kat Von D brush, is if you are using pigments that have a lot of sparkle or metallic to them. The problem with the cheaper brushes sometimes is they don't really pick up enough of the pigment, whereas this brush was actually made for that. So this is made to be used with Kat Von D's Shade and Light palette that has glitter in it, so it'll actually pick up more of the pigment. So if you just want to like pack color like right onto here, anything you want to really pack that pigment on with, I would use a more expensive brush. This is a brush that not many of you guys use, but if you are going to use this type of brush, what this is a mascara brush. So you use it to apply your mascara this way onto your lashes. This would be more for a makeup artist, I would think, or if you have a really hard time with the wands, like if you feel like you can't get close enough to your roots, especially if you have red hair or blonde hair, these things are gonna save your life. So you can really get in there and you're not really getting close to the eye like you do with a wand. But because of that, because this is getting so close to your eye and because you really want precision in your lashes, I would spend money on this kind of brush if you get it. This is a lash and brow lifter is what this is called. So if you do want to get this for any purpose, I would go expensive with this, especially because the cheaper ones sometimes are really bristly, and if you do accidentally poke yourself, this is not going to hurt you because it's soft, but the cheap ones are going to leave a mark. Eyebrow brush, yay! So I'm super bummed I actually left my eyebrow brush at home, the one that I use every day, which is the Benefit eyebrow brush, which is the best. But I left it at home. So this is the Anastasia Beverly Hills eyebrow brush, which is my second favorite. Do not mess around with your eyebrows. I have tried cheaper eyebrow brushes. The bristles are never tight enough. They always fray. I can't say enough how much I hate cheap eyebrow brushes. So definitely spend money on a good eyebrow brush, especially eyebrow brushes. These ones with the compacted bristles, as long as you're not too rough on them, they will last you a long time. Eyeliner brushes. So this is another one of those things that there is the exception to the rule. This is a Sigma eyeliner brush, and this is just a fine pointed eyeliner brush. If I do use a brush to apply eyeliner, I use these kind of brushes. I do not like angled liner brushes, so I'm not even talking about those. However, you want to use an expensive brush because they come to a point. The bristles are a little softer and they're not going to fray. There's an exception. I use the e.l.f. eyeliner brush in my kit, which again is a freak of nature, amazing brush. But you just want to make sure if you are cheaping out on these brushes that you're finding brushes that the bristles come to a point, that they're nice and soft, and that there's no frayed pieces. So you can find them more inexpensive, but I'd say just if you have the money to go a little bit more expensive, just do it from the get-go, and then you're not searching. Also, the problem with the cheap ones is it's hit or miss, because once you wash them, they might look great when they're new and clean, but once you wash them, they might fray. So the more expensive ones you know are gonna be good. And lastly is my lip liner brush, which is actually starting to fray, but it's only because I've used it a bazillion times. This is the, not lip liner, lipstick. This is the lipstick brush from my makeup kit, and I have a couple of them in there, but I just grabbed this one because I love Sugar Pill and I wanted to include their brushes in this video. So it's very similar to the eyeliner brush with lipstick. You want to make sure that your lipstick brush is super tight, that it is super flat, and that the edges don't fray. So expensive brushes will be like that right off the get-go. You can find cheaper brushes. I do have one by Morphe that I like, but for the most part, cheap lipstick brushes drive me insane. And it's as you wash them that they start to break down, where the expensive ones don't do that. I have probably washed this brush, no exaggeration, like 120 times. So yeah, it's starting to fray a little bit, but it's to be expected. So that is it. That is my save versus splurge video. Let me know if you guys agree with me. If you guys have any brush suggestions, whether cheap or expensive, or maybe inexpensive brushes that do not break down, please leave them in the comments below. I always love when you guys share tips with each other. Also, if there's other save blurb? I don't even know what that is. If there are other save versus splurge videos you want to see me do, please let me know. And it could also be outside of the beauty world, so get creative with your suggestions. But that's all I have for you guys today, and I will see you guys next time. Thank you guys so much for watching my video. Be sure to check out these other videos that I have posted to see more of my wackiness. And if you want to see even more of my wackiness, be sure to subscribe for all things that are vintage and retro and general silliness.